Welcome back to the channel. I do hope you enjoy our selection of stories tonight. As always, please feel free to send in stories of your own to my email address, along with your name for credit. Thank you. Now let's begin. The second scarecrow. After Helen died, Thomas stopped going into town except when he had to. He didn't see the point. The house was too quiet without her, but the land still needed tending. The same cows still needed feeding. The same tractor still coughed to life each morning. The cornfield still drank the sun in long, silent rows. Time passed differently on a farm. It didn't heal, it just pressed forward. Seasons, not hours. And somewhere along the way, Thomas stopped noticing the calendar. But there were things he did still notice, like the scarecrow. Helen had made it by hand years ago. Said she wanted one that looked more human than the plastic things you bought at the feed store. She'd sewn its clothes herself, stuffed the body with old rags and hay, given it a burlap head with stitched features, a mouth shaped into a crooked little smile, and on the crown, a wide straw hat like the one her father used to wear in the fields. She named it Eli for reasons she never explained. When she got sick, she'd sometimes ask if Thomas had checked on Eli, just to make sure he's still watching. He told her yes, always. She passed in early spring. The funeral was small. Afterward, the house felt enormous. He left Eli standing out in the cornfield. The year went dry. July came hot and still, and the corn grew high, almost as tall as Thomas himself. One night in late August, Thomas was pulled from sleep by a sound, a creak. He lay still, listening. The house had its usual noises, the groans of old wood, the wind sliding across the eaves. But this was different, sharper. He glanced at the clock. 2:44 a.m. Then came the faint click of the screen door. Thomas sat up slowly. Footsteps on the porch boards. Heavy, not pacing, waiting. He reached into the drawer and pulled out the revolver he kept there. It hadn't been fired in 20 years. Still smelled like old metal and oil. Another creak. The front doorknob. They were trying to open it. Thomas moved quietly through the hall, down the stairs. He clicked off the light as he passed the kitchen. The windows were black mirrors. He could see only his own silhouette. The doorknob twisted again. Thomas raised the revolver. "I'm armed," he called out. His voice felt too loud in the stillness. A pause. Then, something knocked. 3 firm, deliberate knocks. Thomas felt his skin go cold. He stepped closer to the door. No more sounds. Nothing moved on the other side. Then, movement. Not from the door, but outside the window to his left. Just a flicker. A shape. He swung the revolver toward it, heart pounding. Something was there. A figure standing near the edge of the porch. Too still to be natural. Then it was gone. He flicked on the porch light. The bulb buzzed. The porch was empty. Thomas opened the door slowly, keeping the gun raised. The steps were empty. The yard, the gravel driveway, the barn, all still. The corn swayed slightly in the windless dark. He called the sheriff. Deputies came 20 minutes later, lights cutting across the fields. They searched the house, the porch, the shed, found nothing. No prints in the dust, no scuff on the door. They told him it was probably some meth head or kid from town trying to scare him. They'd keep a cruiser nearby that night. He nodded, not believing a word of it. Before they left, one of the deputies asked, "That your scarecrow out there?" Thomas glanced past them toward the cornfield. Eli stood where he always had, arms stretched out, head tilted gently to one side. "Yeah," he said. "My wife made it." The deputy nodded and left. Thomas watched the scarecrow a long time that night before going inside. The next day passed like all the others, hot, dry, and silent. He stayed out of the house as long as he could, busying himself with the shed roof and checking fence lines that didn't need checking. But as the sun fell, a familiar unease crept in. He double-checked the locks, kept the revolver close. The porch light stayed on. This time, there was no knock, no footsteps. Just a silence so deep it pressed against the windows. He didn't sleep. He sat in the old recliner, watching the front door. Sometime around 3 a.m., his eyes drooped. The revolver slipped slightly in his grip. And then, a sound. Not inside the house. From the back this time, the kitchen window. Something soft, a brush, like fingers against glass. He stood, heart hammering. Then, nothing. No more sounds. Just his own breath in the dark. Morning came pale and thin. He opened the back door and stepped outside into the cool dawn. The cornfield stood tall, gold-edged by the rising sun. He glanced toward the center of the field and froze. There were 2 scarecrows now. One stood in the usual place, Eli as Helen had built him. The other was 20 feet to the left, slightly smaller. Its clothes didn't match. The shirt was darker, torn, one pant leg missing. Its arms drooped oddly, one lower than the other. The head, burlap again, slumped to the side as if the neck couldn't hold it. Thomas hadn't put it there. He was sure of it. He walked slowly into the field, boots crunching dry earth. The air between the rows was warm and close. The new scarecrow didn't have a post. It leaned, half collapsed, as if simply standing there on its own. He stopped a few feet away. The shirt looked familiar. Dark flannel, the kind he wore to bed. The left sleeve was torn, like something had grabbed it. He reached out and stopped. Something deep inside him screamed, "Don't." He backed away, turned, walked fast, then faster, then ran until he was back on the porch, lungs burning. The field was quiet again, but the second scarecrow remained. That night, he didn't go near the windows. He didn't answer the phone when the deputy checked in. He kept every light on, but still the dark pressed against the house like water around a sinking boat. He couldn't sleep, didn't try, but nothing came. When the sun rose, he looked again. There was only one scarecrow in the field, Eli, right where Helen had left him. The other was gone. Thomas doesn't tell many people what happened. Most wouldn't believe him. The sheriff doesn't come around anymore. The corn was harvested late that year, and the field has sat empty since. He never found the second scarecrow. Not in the barn, not in the woods beyond the property line. But he felt it. Sometimes still does. He keeps the porch light on, always, even in summer. Even when the nights are too hot to sleep. Sometimes, on the stillest nights, the scarecrow out in the field seems to shift slightly, just enough to catch the corner of his eye. He never checks anymore. He doesn't need to. Because deep down, he knows. Eli isn't watching the field. He's watching the house. Stay out of the corn. People think Iowa is flat and boring. Rows of corn, gravel roads, big skies. Nothing happens here. But there are places in the fields you don't go after dark. Places the grown-ups never talked about, but you could tell they knew. I'm not the only one who's seen something, but I'm the only one left who's willing to talk about it. My name's Mark Dwyer. I'm 50 now. But this happened in 1986. In late August, I was 10. Me and my best friend, Robbie Tucker, had this idea to go camping out behind the irrigation ditch, near where the cornfield started to get wild. His family owned acres and acres out near Carroll, and we figured we'd sneak out after dark, pitch a tent, tell ghost stories, and try smoking one of his brother's stolen cigarettes. We weren't scared of cornfields. We grew up in them, spent summers playing hide and seek between stalks so tall they swallowed you whole. But we should have been scared. We really should have been. That night, the sky was overcast, the kind of humid blackness where the air sticks to your skin. The flashlight Robbie brought was dim, and the batteries were dying. I remember the way it flickered like a firefly when we first stepped between the rows. We didn't mean to go far, just past the ditch, into the edge of the field. But we got turned around. The rows went on forever. Every direction looked the same. And when we tried to go back the way we came, we couldn't even find the ditch. I kept saying, "Let's just head straight. We'll hit the road or the fence line." But Robbie was already getting scared. He tried to laugh it off, but I could hear it in his voice, this tight, shaking edge. We argued. He wanted to shout for help. I told him no, we'd get in trouble for sneaking out. Then we heard something moving in the corn. Not the wind, not an animal. Something big. Walking, slow, deliberate. 2 legs. We froze. Robbie grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise. It was maybe 10 feet away, but the stalks were too thick to see through. The flashlight flickered again and died completely. Just snap, gone. And then came the smell. A hot, wet stink like rotting meat and turned soil. I wanted to throw up. Whatever it was moved again, closer this time. And then, the whisper. I swear to God, it whispered my name, just once. Quiet, but clear as anything I've ever heard. Mark. It wasn't Robbie. I turned to him, and he was staring at me, mouth open. Then it whispered again. His name. Robbie. That was enough. We bolted. Didn't matter which way. We just ran. The corn cut our arms and faces, but we didn't care. We ran until our lungs burned. The rows blurred, and the sky felt lower, like the night itself was pressing in. Then I tripped. Fell face first into the dirt. Robbie helped me up, and that's when we saw it. Only for a second. 10, maybe 15 feet away, between the stalks. Something stepped out. Tall, thin, skin like gray bark or leather, with arms that bent the wrong way. Its head was all wrong, too narrow, too long, and its eyes, God, its eyes, they were white. Not glowing, not shining, just white. No pupils. It stood there, tilting its head, the way a dog does when it hears a sound it doesn't like. and then it took a step toward us. Robbie screamed. I grabbed his arm and pulled. We ran again, but he slipped. I felt his hand jerk from mine. I turned around, reached for him. He was gone. No scream, no rustling. Just gone. Like something plucked him out of the corn and into the dark. I shouted his name over and over, ran in circles, got lost all over again. I think I screamed until my throat gave out. Eventually, I found the ditch, climbed over it, ran all the way back to the Tuckers' house, banging on their door like a maniac. I told them Robbie fell, told them we were just playing and he ran off. I lied. I had to. They organized search parties, dogs, volunteers, the sheriff. Nothing. Not a shred of him. Not a shoe. Not a scrap of fabric. He was just gone. After a week, they stopped searching. I never went back into the corn again. Now I know what you're thinking. Childhood imagination, trauma. Maybe I got scared and Robbie really did get lost and I couldn't help him. I've thought about that. For years. I've tried to make it make sense. But here's the thing. Last year, when my own son turned 10, I caught him about to sneak out with his buddy in the middle of the night. Thought they were clever, just like me and Robbie. Thought they'd go explore the fields. He told me he heard someone out there calling his name, but he never told anyone his name that night. And I never told him the story. So I'm telling it now. To anyone who'll listen, don't go into the corn at night. Not in Iowa. Not anywhere. Because there's something in there. And if it knows your name, it means it's already too late. Thank you for listening. And as always, stay safe tonight.